Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the 73rd episode of the Online Tennis Podcast. It's me, Jack, and today I'm joined by Claire of Murray Musings fame. Claire,
Hello,
how are we?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here in On the Line HQ.
Yeah, no worries. Everywhere's a headquarters for Murray Musings,
Oh,
right?
totally, yeah.
Today, Billie Jean King Cup coverage, basically going through the group stage winners, a bit on the semi-finalists, a bit on the finalists. Claire, I saw you throughout the week. I know you saw tons of it. First place I wanted to start was I don't know what it was, ABC or whatever group it was that GB qualified from, but the group stage winner for the group that GB were in ended up being GB,
Yeah.
and it was quite emphatic. It was quite heartwarming. It was great. It was a really good story, actually. What was your take on it first?
Oh, it was absolutely amazing because I think, hand on heart, in all honesty, I don't think anyone really expected it, I think they might have had, I personally thought they might have had a shot at beating Kazakhstan, which obviously they didn't in the end. But I just ruled them out against Spain completely. I was like, I don't think they're going to get the win against Spain, so they're not going to get this. If I'm being perfectly honest, I thought that GB might have actually finished bottom of the group.
Yeah, well, they weren't far off doing that, obviously, were they?
Yeah. So to actually to top the group and to get that, they knew what they had to do against Spain, and to get that 3-0 win was just incredible. The girls were absolutely amazing. And I think I didn't expect them to win against Australia. But there was that, they've topped the group. They'll be feeling really confident. They might actually manage it here.
We'll zoom forward to the semis in a second. I was going to say, we'll stick to the group stages now. Rewinding a little bit to the very start of the week when they played Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
You're quite right. I thought they had chances as well. They did. Obviously, Katie Bolter ended up being injured against Putintseva. Putintseva, by the way, is like the bogey woman of the GB team's careers for some reason. She holds 7 wins over all of them collectively, which is like, I think that is about half of the total losses to the rest of the Billie Jean King Cup field.
That's pretty grim, GB. Isn't it?
It's bizarre, yeah. I don't know why Putintseva was so difficult for people. Anyway, Bolter ended up losing that. She was kind of in control of the match for a while. Then Rybakina comes out and looks like a Wimbledon champ. She was playing about as well as I expected her to live. It was a phenomenal match for me to watch. The size of the ball Rybakina was hitting was a joke. But yeah, the story of the week's got to be Alicia Barnett and Olivia Nichols, who you were alluding to, right?
How amazing. How amazing. And I will tell you a story about Alicia Barnett that I had this irrational dislike of Alicia Barnett because at Wimbledon she played mixed doubles with Johnny O'Mara, and they beat Jamie and Venus.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's actually nothing to do with Alicia herself, because she played amazing tennis on that day. Like, I mean, if you're going to peak against anyone, you're going to peak against Venus Williams, aren't you? And her friends were sitting a few rows in front of me, and they were being like, every time Venus, if she double faulted or if she hit the ball into the net, anything, they were like screaming, going absolutely mental. And I was just like, the disrespect towards Venus Williams here is outrageous. And so as a result of that, I was like, I associate them with you, Alicia Barnett. So I'm going to say that I'm not a fan, even though it's the only time I've seen her play tennis. And then, I mean, now, give me a bell and a sandwich board, I absolutely love her.
I mean, the energy kind of match, very intense. I could see that at the Wimbledon mixed, and her friends maybe bringing a certain intensity to the field that could be seen as a little disrespectful, maybe.
They probably helped her win, she had that mad support in the crowd that. And if it had been anyone else, I probably would have been like, yeah, good on you. But I was like, you're disrespecting Venus Williams here.
I mean, the energy they were bringing at the Billie Jean King Cup was sort of similar. They were getting so pumped up after every point. The energy was like sort of Davis Cup Saturdays of old, right?
Massive,
sort of 2015 and 16. Just they were pumping up the crowd for every point,
and they knew they had to win that match as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. So even the Kazakhstan one, they had to win in the end. They wouldn't have maybe known that at the time, but that ended up being crucial to them going through, because they had to have that 2-1 loss,
Yep.
right, to get through to the semi-finals. So it ended up being a really important match. The doubles players themselves, Barnett and Nichols, have actually won more matches than any other British women this year. I wasn't aware of that.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
obviously matches, they vary in level, obviously, but the point is they've been doing a lot of winning and people weren't really aware of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that
Well, yeah, because
before this week.
they're a long time doubles partnership, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which I didn't realise until I think it might have actually been the semi-finals when they were doing the team announcements and they were actually talking about how they already are doubles partners, which I didn't know, and I thought was quite interesting and actually really nice, because a lot of the time
Yeah.
in these team competitions, the two who play doubles, they're not necessarily doubles partners. They're just doing it for that
Yeah.
competition.
It's interesting because the Czech tie that they ended up losing, obviously back in May, right? I'm pretty sure they lost 3-2, and one of the doubles, one of the ties they lost was the doubles, and that was a scratch pairing. It wasn't a pair that normally play together. So that, it makes a big difference. Obviously, that didn't end up being crucial to them in the end because they got in anyway, by virtue of hosting the
Yep.
tournament. But still, it goes to show you're quite right. It's really important for these two women who are top 70 in the world now to come in as a regular pairing, and they could beat anybody in the world. They showed that. And that happened in the Spanish tie as well. That was the best match of the week for me. Maybe the semi-final in Australia was as well, actually, the doubles tie there, because obviously that was dramatic but the result obviously wasn't what we wanted. But the doubles against Spain, against Bolsova and Masarova, that was so good. The first tie break, so squeaky, surely. They must have been feeling tense, but they got so pumped
And
up,
then,
and
they
they
just
brought it through.
absolutely smashed the second set.
Yeah, just out of
Yeah.
nowhere. I wasn't expecting that at all.
It was almost as if just getting that tie break win, they were like, it was that belief that they were just like, yeah, do you know what? We can do this. One
Yeah.
more set, 6 more games, and we're through at the semi-finals.
I sensed the intensity go up from the Brits, but also the wind in the Spanish sails seemed to been completely knocked
Yeah.
out. It felt like they were just like, this is totally escaped from us. Like, how have we let
Yep.
this slip?
Yeah,
Sort of
because
thing.
I think with and I don't think it was Spain going in with any disrespect towards their opponents. I don't think they would ever have been like that. But Spain probably knew they were going in as the favourites,
Yeah.
and GB were very much the underdogs. But I think a lot has to be said for the crowds, the Barmy Army at these kind of
Yeah.
matches. Like, that's what you need to get behind the players. And if you're the underdog, having that sort of support is just absolutely massive, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It must have helped Harriet Dart and Heather Watson, right? Harriet Dart in particular, with that win over
Badosa.
Paula
Yeah.
Badosa, so
Yeah.
good. And honestly, like this year, her breakout's been insane. She hadn't had any top 50 wins before this year. She's got 8
Yeah.
now, all of a sudden, and 2 at this tournament, beating Tomljanovic and Badosa. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I feel it when she gets into like the right mindset, she's an almost unbeatable player. Like, she's so good. And I think she actually demonstrated that against Tomljanovic as well. She was up a break and Tomljanovic broke back, and I got quite
That
worried
was it, yeah.
after that she was going to, but she's so determined. And it's almost like she decides, no, actually, I'm not going to let you beat me. She kind of puts up a wall, and she's just, she's a great player. She's had a really, really promising year. I'm quite excited for Harriet Dart next year. I'm
Oh, aye,
interested to
yeah.
see what she does.
8 top 50 wins is huge. It's a really
Yep.
big deal for
Yep.
anybody in British tennis. So, yeah, look out for it. Obviously, yeah, that win ended up being GB going through to the semi-finals. We'll move on to the opponents of them. I've not got much to say about Australia in the group stages. They ended up beating Belgium and Slovakia. Storm Sanders obviously ended up being really, really crucial for
She ended up being
Australia
like their most
throughout the whole
successful
Davis
player,
Cup.
pretty much, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, I've got one other pick for that, but Storm Sanders still, yeah, I think she ended up winning 3 singles ties and a doubles tie. Ended up beating, I think Van Uytvanck was one of them, and Kuzmova, I think. But they were
Yep.
both in straight sets. She just incredible on return. Just her level was so aggressive. I think she said it herself in a press conference. I was asking her about it. She said when she's on, she's so good on return. Other days, maybe not seeing the ball as well. Maybe if it's faster conditions and stuff. Certainly the court was very slow this week, but you can't knock her performance this week because it was
Oh,
top 20 sort of level.
totally,
Really, really good.
totally. And I think there's an indication there of how much playing for your country means to a lot of people as well. Because I, I personally, I know more about Sanders as a doubles player. Obviously, you see her coming up in the singles, and you see her name cropping up against whoever in a lot of tournaments. But I never really see her setting the heather alight in a lot of big tournaments. But I
Yeah,
think like there's something about playing for your country that seems to
yeah,
bring out the
completely.
best in a lot of people.
Yeah, Tomljanovic said that if she focused on singles fully, she could really make a go at it. She's still only 220 or so in the world, really,
Mm-hmm.
really low ranked relatively. And doubles, obviously, she seems to find a lot more natural to her. It's very difficult to balance the two
Mm-hmm.
when your focus is too invested in doubles because you don't give yourself enough time to practice single strategy, stuff like that, or build up the points as well if you're not playing
Yeah.
enough tournaments. So definitely something to consider for next year. Yeah,
Yeah, although
obviously.
in saying that, I mean, I like the Stozer Sanders partnership, so I wouldn't want to see
Yeah,
that end anytime soon.
that's fair enough actually. Because yeah, I mean the doubles we again we'll get onto the semi final in a bit, but that match was insanely good, and obviously the level they can bring to a doubles court is actually it should be at the WTA finals for me. Like they're incredibly good.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. The other match I was going to talk about very quickly is Tomljanovic's win over Elise Mertens. Noteworthy because from 4-1 up, or 4-love up, I believe, 4-1 up, a double break. Mertens also led 4-2 40 love. In the end, she had to retire. Ended up losing like 8 games in a row, I think, before retiring.
Wow.
Obviously, the absence of Swiatek because of the WTA finals came to light here because Mertens had like a 20-hour turnaround or something like that after winning the WTA finals. Maybe not as little as that, but something similar to that, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
and I mean,
sure.
you think about coming from Fort Worth to Glasgow,
Yeah.
like there's going to be a bit of jet lag there. She would have been absolutely knackered.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to her, she won her first match somehow, but yeah, obviously, eventually all caught up with her, and
Yeah.
she kind of crashed by the end of that second set. So, kind of a shame, and maybe might have seen Belgium going through, possibly, and maybe Britain would have beat Belgium. Who knows?
Oh,
That's definitely
we
that's
could we could what if forever,
I
couldn't
know
we?
exactly that was one too many what ifs. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Still worth entertaining just for a second
Hmm.
because it's a fair point. The WTA bragged about it almost on social media, and really, when you're kind of advocating the idea that it's cool for a player to be coming on court 36 hours after playing like one of the biggest tournaments of her life, I don't know, it's a little bit
Yeah,
silly.
I mean, I think the whole tennis season is ridiculous in terms of scheduling. I mean, that's we could probably talk about that alone for
Yeah.
for an entire hour
I
about
don't
how
think anybody doesn't think that, Claire. Do you know what I mean? Like every tennis fan is in agreement about that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we don't need that much tennis, but
And they don't even get a proper off season. They don't get a proper
yeah,
off season because now they're going and playing all these exhibition matches in December, and it's just it's absolutely ridiculous. I feel like they need, if things wrap up say mid November, and that's
yeah,
you finish the year with either the year end finals or Billie Jean King Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup. That's
yeah.
it, and they get a solid 6 weeks off.
I'd agree definitely.
At
If
least, I mean,
everybody's
it's the least they
yeah,
deserve.
it's a lengthy rabbit hole we could go down, Claire.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you, but I'll keep us on track. Always got through to the finals. They were against Britain on the other side of the draw, or whatever you want to call it, other half of the ties. Switzerland, the eventual champions, were able to come through, with Italy failing to win a tie. Their story maybe not that interesting. I would stick to the Swiss win over Canada, which ended up being crucial, obviously.
Yep.
And the first win, and this is what I was saying, Claire, about who gets the MVP award. this week. My
Yeah.
obviously now Belinda Bencic played incredibly well. And the obvious pick would be to give it to Bencic because every single match she played pretty much flawlessly. It's like when she plays for her country, she's like a woman possessed.
She's a
It's
gold medal
bizarre.
winner, isn't she?
Exactly, yeah, gold medal winner, Hopman Cup winner as well. She just and obviously got to the finals last year. It was only Samsonova that was able to beat her. Anyway, my pick would be Viktorija Golubic, who, relatively speaking, wasn't expected to win her singles matches, I would say. And the one against Canada, against Bianca Andreescu, was one of the best
Oh, it was
singles matches I saw all week.
amazing tennis. Absolutely amazing. I could not believe the level of tennis that was coming from her. I actually, so I, on Friday morning, I was running late and I missed the first maybe 6 or 7 games of the first set. So I got in just towards the end of the first set and Andreescu had won it fairly comfortably. I think it was 6-3.
Yeah,
And
maybe even two actually,
yeah,
Claire. 6-2,
yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't, it looked like when I came in and sat down, I was like, oh, this match will be over like quite soon. Like that looks as if she's on fire and Golubic isn't
Yeah.
really responding. And then it was almost like she was like, actually, I am responding and I'm going to take this match. And she was on fire. I was going to say, I was going to exaggerate a bit and say I've never seen tennis like it. I have seen tennis like it, but she just went from, like 25 to 90 in the space
Yeah,
of about
yeah.
10 minutes.
Almost definitely. The stuff that was working for Andreescu in particular, all those sort of amazing returns she was doing in the first set, kind of fell away a bit. The one sort of a few analytical points I would make, Golubic's serve isn't the best, continued to not be the best throughout the match, but it was almost like every single time it went to a rally, Golubic was winning the
Yeah,
point.
she was getting the better of her. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I part of that, and I think part of what you would maybe call the flashy side of it and why you're so like, you were so taken by it, because I was exactly the same. A lot of the time, Andreescu would come in off of fairly decent approach shots, and Golubic would have these like backhand lobs, slice backhands low, forehand passes like past Andreescu. You couldn't do anything to come forward against her. And on those slow courts, that was like such a big factor a lot of the
Yep.
time. Even from the back of the court as well, like the defense off the backhand, she's such a clean, smooth looking player. Like when she's got a bit of time in the ball, she was saying that herself, she can do anything she likes basically with both wings. The versatility was incredible. I was loving it.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And I think, if you were there as a person who was maybe just like bought a ticket today and just went along, what a match to introduce you to tennis.
Yeah,
It was brilliant. And like you say, she's so versatile, and it was almost like she just picked that moment to start playing almost perfect tennis. Like
yeah.
Andreescu just could not get past her. And
Yeah, Andreescu didn't play a terrible
no,
match.
she actually
Yeah.
played pretty well. I think towards the end of the third set, she was pretty deflated, and you could kind of see in her body language, like she was slumping her shoulders a bit. She kept on looking over at her bench, and she was kind of, moving her hands around, like almost questioning what was happening. But that was when I think that was at the point when she pretty much knew that she was beaten, because she didn't have a bad match. It was just that
Yeah,
Golubic just got so good
yeah,
that it turned
exactly.
turned it around.
I'd say exactly the same thing. By the way, for those who don't know, I didn't even mention that Golubic has got a one-handed backhand. That's also part of the reason why it's so versatile and flashy. I always forget, people maybe don't know that. I've got it pictured in my head. Yeah, that's part of the reason why she looks so flashy and she's so
Yep.
incredible. The one other thing I'd add about the match, according to their press conferences, Golubic said there was a bit of nerves at the tail end of the match, 5-2, and I think Andreescu pulls off one of the breaks back. She holds for serve, and then Golubic's got a fairly nervy game to serve out the match. Andreescu said she played the final game perfectly, and this is really interesting for those at home maybe who don't have the best serves in the world. Golubic didn't try to get it past Andreescu. She saw her creeping in and apparently sort of caught her out with two body serves. So still rating the body serve. I think a lot of people kind of underrate it, especially against your Andreescu's, Caroline Garcias of the world who like to step in. it's a really good move, and it saved her there
Mm-hmm.
because I think the rallies maybe would have fallen the way of Andreescu, the way that Golubic was playing at the end of that match. So very smart
Yep.
tennis, and part of the reason why she might be my player of the week.
And that, you're speaking like a true tennis coach there as well, Jack.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you, Claire. I always appreciate anybody saying that I'm coaching well. Obviously, yeah. The obvious player of the week now to speak about, Belinda Bencic was able to beat Leylah Fernandez in the following match and gave Canada a fairly decent 2-love lead there because the doubles ended up being very one-sided for Canada, so they needed both of those wins in the end. Yeah, Bencic, incredible in that match. I don't know what Bencic match she was best in, to be honest, but here she was untouchable for a set and a break, right? It's like 6-love, 6-1, or 1-love even, 6-love, 6-1, 1-love. It was insane.
It was unreal. I was so looking forward to that match, and I was saying to like Andre from Tennis and Bagels podcast, who was over with Team Canada, I said to him, this is going to be incredible. We're looking at 3 sets. This match has got 3 sets written all over it. It's going to be so close. And then Bencic just, the first set was over in 24 minutes.
She was insane.
She just
honestly.
opened up the Belinda Bakery, and
she could not put her foot wrong. She looked like the best player in the world for a set and a break.
It was absolutely ridiculous, and Fernandez just did not look like the player that we know she is. You know, she made Bencic was so good. She made Fernandez just look totally mediocre. I personally didn't think that Fernandez played great in that first set anyway, but I think even if she had been playing well, she wouldn't have wouldn't have stood a chance.
Almost definitely. That was, again, like to open up a bit more about what's so good about Bencic's game. It's normally, and it was here, it was her backhand for me. It's what she can do with her backhand is unreal and should be regarded as one of the best in the game. So like how she changes directions a lot of the time. Leylah likes to do the same thing with her own backhand. She can take it down the line. Really good disguise. She doesn't have the biggest take back. She's a lefty as well, so normally used to changing direction there. But anytime she did that and went into Bencic's backhand, it's like the harder you hit it to Bencic's backhand,
the harder she returns,
the faster it comes back. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, and it just gets massaged into the corners, and it's unplayable sometimes. That's why she seems unplayable, because nowhere in the court is safe, right? So incredible match.
I always think that she's quite an underrated player, Bencic, because she's one of these players who I'm talking about for myself, because I always forget how good she is, and I sometimes refer to her as the female Marin Cilic, because Marin Cilic for me is a player who I always forget won a Grand Slam, and I always forget about him until he shows up in like the quarterfinals of a big tournament. You know, like he just goes deep, but you just don't really pay that much attention to him. And I feel like she is the female version of that, except she's better than him. So
yeah, I feel
like
that.
I always think that, and yet I'm like, she's been number 5 in the world. You know, she's a great tennis player. And another thing that I was really surprised to hear was that she's only 25 as well. She's been around. I feel like she's been around for so long.
She's been around for about 8 years, right?
So
she emerged when she was like 17.
She's got so much more ahead of her as well. You know, it's quite incredible to think that if she just, you know, if she keeps it in her head that she keeps on playing for Switzerland, what she might actually achieve in the long run.
I know. Yeah, you're quite right. The future it's insane that the future is still bright for her. Like, as you say, it seems like she should be in the twilight of her career.
She's got at least another decade in her.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. There's no slowing down at all at this point, so for sure. One of the most interesting things before I move on from the Switzerland tie was the ball change, because Bencic talked about it afterwards. Just something that doesn't occur to me. Bencic said that a bagel or a breadstick can sometimes be the most dangerous scoreline because it allows your opponent to start the second set with new balls. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened there. And it was one of the reasons Fernandez was able to sort of blast a few returns past Bencic and claw her way back into the match. Next tie, Claire, the last of the semi-finalists to qualify was Czechia, as we clarified before the podcast. Czechia, against the USA, because okay, Poland made some good innings there. However, they did end up losing both their ties. So the most important one ended up being the USA Czechia one, and that was probably the most
Yep.
interesting as well in terms of matchups and matches, because the two singles ties went the way of
Yep.
Czechia, and that was it was Danielle Collins losing to Marketa
Yep.
Vondrousova and Katerina Siniakova beating Coco Gauff. Two very interesting tales there. Did you see either of them, Claire?
I was very, very surprised because I mean, looking at the team that USA brought with them, I was like, they mean business. And I really expected USA to go to the final. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe the first set between Siniakova and Goff was close. It went to tie break, didn't it? I couldn't believe the second set. I couldn't believe she got bageled. No, sorry, not
yeah.
bageled, breadsticked in the second set.
Breadsticks,
Yeah,
essentially the same thing. I mean, she had one service hold, but it was
yeah,
all one-way traffic. No, not even just in the games, but the points themselves. I mean, she can't have won many
no,
points after that. She talked about it afterwards. Just said she didn't play her best tennis. She didn't say explicitly that she was exhausted, but the toll of losing 6 matches in a week at your home tour, a tournament in your
yeah,
home country. I mean, it must have been massive. She's not really. You'd be giving something away by maybe admitting that. I
hmm
guess
hmm
fair enough, and fair play to her as an 18-year-old. To have sort of
yeah,
held that all in is
yeah,
incredibly inspiring. But yeah, it must have affected
hmm
her for sure. She looked spent by the end of that second set, and even in the first set as well. Claire, she was a
yeah,
little bit ropey
yeah,
for quite a lot
definitely.
of it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, just kind of what you were saying there about the WTA finals as well, and all our match losses. I don't know how much attention she pays to social media, but there was a lot of comments being made on social media about how she gets points and she's not won a single match, and there's which I think is it's really unfair on her. People need to realise how hard she worked through the year in order to get into that final eight. And if she's seen that as well, that's probably had an effect on her and made her feel just a little bit crap.
Yeah, I know, and my gut feeling would be, given what she's posted in the past about hate comments and spam she gets, that she probably
hmm
does read some of it, because I feel like she's quite active on social media and stuff in general. So I think it would have affected her a
Yep.
bit, Claire, for sure. And honestly, I just wanted to like give her a wee hug,
Yeah.
to be honest, because I feel like she needs it, but she's bottling it up. Fine, fair play to her. I'm sure in the off season she can kind of let it all out, and it won't affect her going into
Yeah,
2023. Is my
fingers
point.
crossed. She
Yeah,
goes home now, spends some time with her family. I mean, that's another thing. The other thing about Coco Gauff, kind of similar to what I was saying about Belinda Bencic. She, she's 18. She's so young, and yet she's been around already for like 3.5
mm-hmm.
years. And I think people forget that as well, don't they? Because she's
Yeah,
um, quite a concrete figure on tour now that you're so used to seeing her and you're used to seeing her do well in the tournaments that you forget she's actually still a child.
yeah, yeah. She's turned
You
18
know,
this year.
so yeah,
Exactly.
I think hopefully she'll go home, spend some time with her family, just kind of regroup, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Coco's 2023.
So am I. The other match from that tie. This is a total tennis nerd match for me. It was incredible. Marketa Vondrousova beating Danielle Collins. Danielle Collins being one of the best hardcourters
Yep.
this year. The small caveat that apparently Danielle Collins had an allergic reaction, by the way, before the match.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, she was saying that in her
What
press
did
conference.
what too? Like, did someone give her a deep fried Mars
I
bar?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think you have to be allergic to a deep fried Mars bar to feel
To feel really ill
crappy at
afterwards.
it. Yeah, yeah. She just said she had an allergic reaction. She didn't say what to.
Wow.
Anyway, I believe her. It's no, she doesn't come out with excuses like that that often. So maybe that affected things a
Yeah.
little bit. At the same time, Collins was still smacking her backhand. Just for reference, Daniel Collins' backhand is probably the most powerful backhand, I would say, on a hard court on the tour. The way she can return with it, the way she can flatten it out is insanely
Is
powerful.
she
It's
a
just
is she a two-handed backhand?
A two-hander, yeah. She's a
Yeah.
two-handed backhand. You're thinking Golubic now. I mean, Golubic, I think, is the only maybe this. There's only two one-handers, I think, in the top 100. Obviously, you could have said Ash Barty was a one-hander. To be fair, anyway, getting sidetracked there. But yeah, Daniel Collins with the two-handed backhand, one of the biggest on tour for sure. It had no effect on Vondrousova whatsoever. Her lefty forehand is it's insane how well she defends off it, and insane how her level has returned to that sort of level she had 2-3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago she made the French Open
Yep.
final. Her movement now and her ability to defend off that forehand is just so good. I wouldn't be surprised if she made the top 10 next year.
Oh, that's good. A good prediction, Jack.
It is. Well, we'll see if it works out, Claire.
Yeah.
A bold prediction, you're right. Yeah, I mean, she won in Shrewsbury. That's not the biggest tournament, obviously, a W100. But
It's a win.
for her to be winning tournaments within weeks of her coming back and playing this sort of level against Daniel Collins
Yep.
is remarkable. And it's not something I'm ignoring.
No,
Because
totally.
it was insane. The way she was able to... Obviously, being a lefty helps against somebody like Collins with a big backhand who does take it cross-court so well. It goes into Vondrousova's forehand, and I think that messed with Collins a little bit. But all credit to her. She still played a great match, and there's few players who would have the weaponry required to have beat her on that day. So
Oh, absolutely. And I think as well about Collins is she's quite an intimidating player on court. Because she's got a lot. She's got big energy. She's got a big personality, and I think even people could be like, oh, that she's probably going to beat me here, but no, it's like you say, she had that confidence and she went out and she did it.
We don't call her Danielle for nothing on Twitter.
No. or what's her other name? Is it Danimal?
Danimal's one, yeah. I saw that sign at the on the day actually, yeah. Danielle or Danimal. Vondrousova wasn't intimidated at all.
No, not
so
the slightest.
Czechia absolutely deserved to go through. Moving on to that semi-final, or we'll start with the GB one actually. Australia v GB. We've covered a little bit of it already. First thing that happened though, Storm Sanders comes out and beats Heather Watson. Yep. Honestly, that wasn't the most remarkable match, I would say. I thought Heather was a bit flat.
Yeah, Storm, she
was. Storm with the level she'd had all week was enough to sort of see her away, even if the second set was a little closer, right?
Yeah, it was a shame. I just felt Heather was a bit passive during the match, and she didn't, in the way that, obviously we'll talk about Harriet Dart in a minute, and we've kind of spoken as well about this with Alicia Barnett, that feeding off the crowd and throwing their arms up, cheering everyone on. You weren't really getting that so much with Heather, and I don't know if it's just because she's maybe just not that kind of person, or if she just wasn't feeling it on Saturday, but she just didn't look quite as well. And this is probably a bit unfair to say that she didn't look as fired up for it as she did in her previous match, because I'm sure she absolutely was fired up for it. I mean, it was the semi-finals of the Billie Jean King Cup, but I think she just couldn't. I don't think she could figure out Storm Sanders' game.
Yeah, I mean, she talked about her return as well, and obviously just wasn't. She couldn't do anything to basically to cover herself.
Yeah.
Apparently, Claire, she just felt like she was under pressure the entire time. So that's probably a massive factor. The match probably that's more interested to talk about, certainly Harriet Dart defeating Tomljanovic, again, a massive deal. Have you anything to add on that? Actually, the match I really want to talk about is the next one, but did you get to see any of Dart Tomljanovic?
Yeah. So the whole match, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, Harriet came out knowing really that, and the doubles girls had been the same. They knew they had to win. Absolutely knew they had to win. So as soon as she won that tie break, the crowd was on fire with her, and she couldn't really do much wrong after that. She was just she played absolutely amazing. She played a brilliant second set of tennis. She did what she had to do to make that final doubles match as exciting as it was.
Yeah. Live, I think, the classic case of home crowd advantage there for sure, because Harriet Dart definitely fed off it.
Yep.
And the doubles was the same. I mean, the Barnett and Nichols played a really, really high level throughout the whole match. The 2 set points in the first set against Sam Stosur and Storm Sanders. Sam Stosur, Stamp. Say that 3
Storms,
times
yeah, say
fast.
that with an iron brew, and yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a really hard one. Yeah, 2 set points in the first set, and I'm sure there was one at 40-30, 30-40, whatever it was. Was it, what did they serve for it? Did they serve for it? No, it was 30-40, Claire.
Yeah,
And she had Nichols had a volley on top of the net, and everybody like screamed like, yes, that's how I won the point. And then it came
yeah,
back, and then they ended up losing the
yeah,
point. That was the moment.
yeah. It was yeah, 2 set points, and yeah, because I'd actually forgotten, because I don't think during the other doubles match that I had seen, which was Canada and Switzerland, I don't think it ever got to juice in any of the
Yeah,
games. So I'd actually forgotten about the deciding point.
deciding.
Um, so that happened quite a few times in that match. But when like effectively you had that double set point, I was on the edge of my seat. That was painful when the ball hit the net and bounced back over. Because we were
Yeah, it
convinced. I
was.
mean, there was actually a woman sitting behind me who jumped up and she was screaming, "Yes!" And then,
I knew. I bloody knew as soon as that second one was fluffed. I was like, the momentum is obviously on the Aussie
yeah,
side now. This is probably the set. That's probably the only chances they
yeah,
had, and that was it. Saying that, after they lost the first set, the second set there was another 2 set
hmm
points. They blew both of
yeah,
those,
yeah.
and then the tiebreak came around, and they upped their game. They genuinely,
Well, they picked,
definitely did up their
yeah,
game
picked themselves
because.
up. They dust themselves off, and they really went for it. And I think by that point they knew they were well. We've got nothing to lose here. We may as well give it
Mhm.
110%. And that was a tough tie break. It ended up being 7-5, I think.
7-5, yeah, it was 7-5. It was a really close set
Yeah.
point. I'm pretty sure that they only just got. Honestly, for me, throughout the match, I'm curious to know who you thought the best player on court was. Because for me, I would probably have said it was Storm.
Oh, okay. So I thought Olivia Nichols was really good.
She was great, to be
Yeah.
fair. I thought Storm was holding Sam up a little bit. Now I'm not saying Sam.
Oh, the
Sam is obviously still.
disrespect. The
I know exactly.
disrespect.
I'm not saying Sam. I know Sam is an absolutely brilliant doubles player. Age has nothing to do with it. She plays the same level as she's always played, but she played this match a little tight
hmm
sometimes for me because there was like the odd point where she fluffed it from winning positions, particularly on important
I think,
points.
yeah,
However,
I think that's fair. And Sanders was covering the entire court, wasn't she?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would say, and I'm not saying Sam played a terrible match. She still played a great match. I just think relative to the 2 British players who were playing great
hmm
tennis, obviously, and then Storm as well, who was just probably up there as one of the MVPs of the
Yep.
week. Um, yeah, Sam probably was the weak link there for me because the British players were taking it to them. That 10-point tiebreak, honestly, it's tough to say what went wrong. There was the contentious foot fault. Did you see that at 5-6? And maybe that might have slipped you
Yeah.
by. But at 5-6 in the match tiebreak, the Nichols' foot got faulted
Yes, yes, I
on a
remember
first
now.
serve.
Yep. hmm Yeah, that was tough.
I looked out for this, by the way. This is really interesting. The second serve was 1000% also a foot fault,
Oh, was it
and it didn't
really?
get called. Yeah. And I think there was just a sort of unsaid kind of, I'm going to let that one
Yeah.
slip because that is going to become the story of the match if I foot fault you twice in a
Yeah.
row. Which is, I think that's fair enough. I don't know. I think there's a lot of listeners who wouldn't say that's fair
I
enough,
mean,
but
especially when it's the home team. I mean, I'm not saying there's any home team bias there, but
but I mean, there would have been absolute uproar if that had
yeah,
been a double fault by foot fault,
yeah,
right?
oh,
And they
absolutely.
lost. They lost the point anyway
hmm
as well.
hmm
So, honestly, a 10-point tiebreak, all Aussie for me. There was maybe 1 or 2 mistakes from the Brits, but they deserved
They
it anyway.
did. I mean,
For me,
I hate
yeah,
those 10-point tie breaks, though. They're so stressful. What is worse than a
they're
regular
great.
tie break is a 10-point tie break.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah, I honestly, Claire, that's what I was hoping for all week. Something like that to get Britain to the final of the Billie Jean King Cup, and yeah, for it to go the Aussie way, obviously was a bit of a shame. But I wanted that drama. I just loved it. So I got what I wanted, even if the result wasn't what I
You got
wanted.
the drama. I mean, it was. It.
Exactly.
I would say it was just. I know we didn't win. I know it wasn't what we wanted, but it was such an incredible match of tennis to witness that
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. It was probably the match of
I
the
would
week
say
for me.
so. That I'm disappointed for
Yeah.
the girls, but I can't be too gutted because I think they would know as well that they played out of their skins.
Yeah. I mean, it's
They did the
three tie
very best they
breaks.
could. Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that, right?
No.
To try
No.
and get to the
Absolutely
final.
amazing.
Incredible. Anyway, Australia get there. They come up against Switzerland. They had to beat Czechia in the semi-finals. I'll run through this quite quickly, just conscious of time. One of the most sort of contentious decisions by the coach, I would say, this week, in that Siniakova and Vondrousova had played the match before. They both put on great performances, particularly Vondrousova, who I can't stop raving about, obviously. And
Obviously.
they both got benched. Mukova went
Yeah.
on instead. Mukova hadn't played much tennis all week. A bit of a question mark, ended up being too much of a question mark and went down fairly handily to Golubic, who again, still my
Yeah.
player of the week. And Siniakova got benched too. Pliskova ended up being a fairly good choice, to be fair. The coach obviously knew that Pliskova could beat Bencic. She beat Bencic
Mhm.
at the
Mhm.
US Open this year. Pliskova just generally a great player. I think Pliskova goes underrated this year because of her coming back from injury in March or so. She had that
Mhm.
spell of just like complete barrenness, basically, where she couldn't win a match. And then kind of turned it on for the latter half of the year. So her form is probably not as bad as people think it is. She's still a great player. And she talked
Yep.
about the second set she played against Bencic, who Bencic, by the way, still playing the best tennis she had all week, managed to win in a tiebreak. Pliskova said that was the best set of tennis she played all year,
Mhm.
and I'd agree.
Yep.
It was incredible, incredible level. Pliskova didn't do much wrong when she got the chance to flatten out. She was landing them pretty much every time. Bencic
I
just
think.
great.
Yeah. I mean, I think to play Bencic when she is playing like that,
Mm-hmm.
you have to take the level
Yeah,
up
yeah,
to
yeah,
that. Like to be
undoubtedly.
able to. I think it was like we said earlier. Bencic was just she was peaking
Mm-hmm.
this week. Playing just absolutely unstoppable tennis. So for Pliskova to up her game enough in the second set to take it to the tie break,
Mm-hmm.
I think really says something about the level of tennis that she was playing as well.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is about Bencic, and that's why she loses matches every so often, Claire, is that she can be overpowered. And a
Hmm.
player like Pliskova, who's playing her best tennis, could beat Bencic if she continued to play that level. And it was like she
Yep.
had to play a 9 out of 10 basically to even get it to a tiebreak, and then she still lost
Hmm.
it.
Yep.
So, yeah, great match from Bencic, but also Pliskova, who's going to be doing good things next year, I think, again. Give on her conditions, I should say, on her suitable conditions, not on clay or anything, but certainly at Australia, who knows. The other match, very quickly, Golubic Mukova. Again, Mukova just found it so hard to come forward against Golubic. Her serve as well slowed down a lot in this court where she would normally have that advantage over Golubic. So
Hmm.
they were kind of just splitting rallies again, but Golubic just so good at outperforming her from the baseline. I should say Mukova, to be fair, admitted she was very nervy after the match. Again, comes down to how much tennis you've played that week. I honestly think I'm going to stand by it. Vondrousova would have been a much better choice here.
Yep. Yep.
Certainly somebody who can attack or get it high to the one hander, right?
Hmm.
With some lefty kick, but I don't know. They put Mukova on. Mukova's still a great player, obviously. Just seemed like an odd decision in hindsight.
Yeah, and it was just it seemed just like quite an easy, straightforward match really for
Yeah,
goalie, but 6-4, 6-4, just
I know. Yeah, it was
in
barely
and out.
doubled.
She might have had more of a game from another player.
Yeah, I'd have said so too.
Um, you could have had more of a match. I don't think, like you said, she was player of the week, and I agree with you 100%. So I still don't think she would have lost that match,
Yeah,
but it might have been a more exciting match to watch.
yeah, I agree. You're quite right. Vondrousova probably would have pushed it to like third set tiebreaker or something, right, Claire?
Yeah.
But
Your favourite thing.
I know, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I agree. Her level was incredible as well. So, as I say, player of the week, Golubic. So, on to
Easily.
Australia though. I was going to say Australia, Switzerland. Golubic was benched, and it was Jill Teichmann that came on, and her match against Storm Sanders, who obviously was incredible,
Yeah.
was great. I don't know how much you know about Teichmann, Claire, but I can fill you in a little bit. For me, Teichmann played one of the cleanest matches of her career. In that, Teichmann is normally the kind of player who plays very, very aggressive from the back of the court. Sometimes has problems being patient, knowing when to pull the trigger. With Storm Sanders on the other half of the court, on the other side of the court, as a fellow lefty, Teichmann was happy to sort of sit back and let Storm make the plays and kind of ride out the storm. Sorry,
Oh,
I know
Jack. Oh, dear.
I didn't even mean it. I'm really sorry. I should. I could have played ignorance in that one. It just rolled off my tongue.
I can see the realisation dawning on your face there and what you were going to say.
I should have said that at the time. Oh, it's too late. An appearance in the podcast is enough. I might edit it out, Claire, obviously. Oh goodness. Yeah. Storm was obviously great. Her level kind of peaked and troughed. When she was playing her best, again those returns just getting blown into the corners. But Teichmann's lefty forehand in particular, with so much spin on it, and it really is quite a loopy shot, just kept Storm too deep in the court for her to keep that sustained.
Did she calm the storm?
She weathered the storm. She did, exactly. Now joining in on it, Claire, Christ. Don't encourage that. It's not a good idea. Obviously, yeah, sounds like a risky tactic, given Storm's 3-love and 6-love record in sets this week. Didn't drop a set before that match, but it proved decisive, and I was really happy with the coach Heinz Gunther, I think, decision to put her on, because just lefty to lefty and asking Teichmann just to play defence for most of the match ended up being a really, really smart play.
I didn't know she was a lefty, so you've taught me something tonight. But I can say that she's a player that I would always kind of tip to do well. So
a lot of upset ability, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as much as I think Storm Sanders had an incredible week, I am not completely surprised that she lost that match.
Yeah. At the same time, Claire, the reason Teichmann normally upsets players is the peak she can reach rather than the sort of Spanish defence that she can offer with her forehand. So her changing up her normal patterns of play to beat Storm this week was just really smart coaching.
Yeah.
Because it could have went a different way if Teichmann had tried to pull the trigger on every ball. In the end, though, obviously Bencic was always going to get that singles win, I guess, by the looks of it. The way she played, again, just insane. 6-2, 6-1 win over Tomljanovic was just an absolute clinic. Very little Tomljanovic could do. Again, just nowhere safe on the court when she's playing like that, because the backhands were just, it looked like she was doing it for fun at that point, just smacking winners down the line, honestly.
I couldn't agree more. It was like a training session for her, almost. Like I felt really bad for Tomljanovic as well when I was watching it, because it's like, she's a better player than this. She is a really good player, and she lost her semi-final match, and now she's losing her final match, and she can't find a rhythm. She can't break through Bencic's game at all. It was just an absolute masterclass for her.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me a lot as well, Bencic's serve was better than Tomljanovic's. It was like she was hitting aces a lot of the time, and it was almost like she, as I say, a woman possessed. It was like she couldn't have done any wrong in that final.
Yeah.
It's scary how good she can play. She's now 21-6, by the way, when she's played Billie Jean King Cup, Fed Cup, Olympics, playing for her country. Only losses to Samsonova, had lost to Fernandez in the past. How do you pronounce the name? Strikova.
Well, you've been doing much better name pronunciation than I have this evening, Jack. So I'm going to go with what you're saying.
I'll go with Strikova. I think people know who I mean. Kvitova as well. Mladenovic, Pereira. Obviously, these players amazing in their day. Kvitova's still a great player, of course. Yeah, it was an amazing day for Swiss tennis, and
absolutely.
amazing to see. I don't know if you saw it, Claire Bencic and Teichmann doing the Wawrinka Federer
Yeah.
celebration afterwards.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. When they did it at first, I was like, "What are they doing?" And then I just started getting this flashback to, was it like 2008?
Eight, I
Yeah,
think.
2008.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, I've seen this before a long, long
yeah,
time ago."
yeah. It's quite iconic, and it's really iconic in Swiss tennis. They were saying they all grew up watching that celebration, and it made sense to pay tribute to it at the end of the match. So it was
What
quite
I will
heartwarming.
admit though is I don't understand what it means.
I've
Like
got no idea either.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I think one of them meant to be dead, and then the other one's got
Like,
magic hands and
I
brings them back
wondered
to
that if
life.
he's like, bringing the aura back out, like bringing them
Yeah,
back to life.
I don't. I've got no idea, Claire. I don't question it. Federer and Stan, they can do what they like after
That is
they win
true.
Olympic
Yes, they
gold.
can do whatever they want. So
Anything would have looked cool, right?
yeah.
It's like, yeah. Um, anything to add on that note, Claire, before we wrap up?
No, other than it was just an amazing week of tennis in Glasgow. I just wish that more people had the opportunity to be there and see it.
Yeah.
But this could lead me on to my rant about the format, and we don't want to. You definitely don't want to go down that rabbit hole with me this evening. We'll save that for another time.
If you can, I assume it is a rant. It's a rant-worthy rant rather than a summarised rant, right? Because I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah,
What is it?
It's just I feel like it ruins the. I like the old way that it was done, where you had the home tie or the away tie, depending on who you were playing, and you knew that your team was going to be playing over that weekend, and the crowds were incredible, and it was like Davis Cup weekend or Fed Cup weekend. Whereas this, I just felt like the crowds in Glasgow are absolutely amazing, but it was still quite flat at times.
You're not going to get a ton of people
No,
turn up for the Canada Italian tie.
it's a
It's like,
long way for people to come especially when they don't necessarily know what day their team's going to be playing, and they also don't know for sure if their team's going to be in the semi-finals or the finals.
yeah, exactly. I agree. And it totally puts people off coming over. You're right.
Yeah, so that's it's my only criticism, and I know the Barmy Army were absolutely amazing, especially on Sunday, and getting fired up for the final, even although Britain weren't playing. It's just for me, it's just the format now isn't ideal for me for this sort of for the crowds that these players deserve. That format doesn't really play well for that, I think.
It's a good note to end on, I think, Claire, because I agree. And hopefully not too solemn. I think it's just a fair point, isn't it? And if the Billie Jean King Cup is going to continue to grow, probably changes like that need to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they just need to market it better and make sure more people get in.
If you were hosting it in Glasgow every year, there's no way people are going to turn up to the other ties anytime. I can't see how you fill up a stadium with when it's not a GB tie.
Well, I'm pretty sure on Friday evening, you could have counted the people in the arena, which is a real shame.
And that was USA v Czech Republic,
yeah,
two of the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty insane.
But apart from that, it was amazing tennis. It was amazing tennis.
A great week at the Billie Jean King Cup. I really enjoyed covering it. Claire, I'm sure you enjoyed it too.
Loved it.
Thank you very much for joining me today. Listeners, please go follow Claire at Brooksy Bradshaw, I believe,
that's
on
the
Twitter,
one.
right?
Yeah, Brooksy Bradshaw.
And you can follow myself at online_Jack. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Thank you very much for joining, Claire. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. We'll catch you next time on the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.